So good evening, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Sangeet, for making me a part of this interesting IC today. And in the coming few minutes, I would basically be highlighting a novel technique for managing large cyclodialysis clefts. So as we all know, cyclodialysis cleft is basically a separation of the ciliary body from the scleral spur, creating a direct connection between the anterior chamber and the suprachoroidal space, increasing the outflow of the aqueous. And many of these small cyclodialysis clefts may close spontaneously, but the larger ones, they usually land up causing a chronic hypotony, causing hypotony, maculopathy, optic disc edema, and a loss of vision. Now, there is a differential of hypotony after trauma. Every case is not because of a cleft. You can have hypotony secondary to retinal detachment, a decreased production of aqueous by the damaged ciliary body, and a very fulminant anterior PVR. And very rarely, it is because of the cyclodialysis clefts. The most common cause, of course, remains a blunt ocular trauma, but a cyclodialysis cleft can very much occur after any intraocular surgery. Diagnosing a cyclodialysis cleft can sometimes be difficult, but we can employ gonioscopy, UBM, and anterior segment OCT for identifying these clefts. The appearance of these clefts can be very different. They can look like whitish area, black or grayish areas, but on a UBM, they can very distinctly be picked up as the separation of ciliary body from the sclera. So as far as the management described in literature is concerned, you can have a medical management in the form of cycloplegic drugs. There is a controversial role described of topical steroids where some people say that controlling inflammation can increase the aqueous production, while some say that inducing inflammation and avoiding steroids itself can cause a cilioscleral adhesion. There's a description of various kinds of laser therapy involving a transscleral diode laser photocoagulation and also a defocused ND-YAG laser to the sclera, but there's always a risk to the injury to the sclera. The surgical therapy, of course, which has been described as a transconjunctival cryotherapy. Even a direct cyclopexy has been described where you suture the ciliary body back to the scleral spur using a 10-0 nylon suture. The other techniques which have been described is doing a pars plana vitrectomy with cryotherapy and a gas tamponade. There's also a technique described as anterior scleral buckling along with cryotherapy. And also the anterior segment surgeons sometimes land up doing the repair of these clefts by putting in a 3-piece IOLs along with the CTR and suturing it to the sclera along with the ciliary body. However, the most problematic are the large cyclodialysis clefts, because all these techniques, they work beautifully when the cleft is only limited to 1 quadrant or maximum to 4 clock hours. So only thing what you can imply for a very large cyclodialysis cleft would be a phaco with a CTR, with a vitrectomy, cryo, and gas. So it involves multiple procedures. And I've tried to fill in this gap by a novel approach for repair of a 360-degree cyclodialysis cleft in my coming video and procedure.
14-year-old boy with badminton racket injury to the right eye and vision of 624/N24 and a pressure of 2 millimeters of mercury. There was subluxated lens and hypotony maculopathy. There was 360-degree cyclodialysis cleft.
Here's how a sewing machine works. There's a threaded needle above the fabric. When it pierces the fabric, a rotating shuttle hook below catches the thread.
We present the sewing machine technique to repair a cyclodialysis cleft. Lensectomy and vitrectomy was done, followed by intraopgonioscopy to confirm the extent of the cleft. A scleral flap was made and 10-0 Prolene suture was threaded into a 26-gauge needle. And the needle was cut off. The needle with Prolene suture was passed through the cleft and a loop was taken out, which was kept in place with the help of a 30-gauge needle. This was repeated multiple times and multiple loops were taken out, which were kept in place with the help of the 30-gauge needle. The 30 gauge needle was extended to keep all the loops in place, and the suture was finally pulled out. And the tenoproline suture was then passed through all the loops. The 30 gauge needle was removed and the suture was tightened. This was repeated on the other side as well. The follow-up at 12 weeks showed a vision of 6,9 N6 with an intraocular pressure of 18 millimeters of mercury.